On today's episode, we have Amazon PPC expert Destaney Wishon, and she is going to be talking about all things AMC. She's going to show you how to get connected to AMC, how to set up AMC ads, and how to manage them. This and more on today's episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast.
How cool is that? Pretty cool, I think. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Serious Sellers Podcast by Helium 10. I'm your host, Bradley Sutton, and this is the show that's completely BS-free, unscripted, and unrehearsed, organic conversation about serious strategies for serious sellers of any level in the e-commerce world.
Thank you all for joining. We're very excited to just present to you on AMC. We get tons and tons of questions. Do you get a lot of questions, Destaney, on this topic?
Yes, I get a ton of questions, and it's confusing. It's a little bit of a black box. So I'm glad that we're kind of doing this webinar, and now that's been made available for everyone.
Yeah, so it should be pretty easy for everyone to get connected. Destaney has a great presentation for us just on AMC, so I'm very excited to share it all with you. And so I'll go ahead and pass it off to you, Destaney.
We know that getting to page 1 on keyword search results is one of the most important goals that an Amazon seller might have. So track your progress on the way to page 1 and even get historical keyword ranking information and even see sponsored ad rank placement with Keyword Tracker by Helium 10. For more information, go to h10.me/keyword tracker.
So first and foremost, I kind of want to kick off with who has logged in and been able to maybe play around with their Amazon Marketing Cloud instance. Has anyone seen it directly in your Amazon Advertising Console? And if you have not had a chance to play around with it, the reason this webinar is perfect timing is Amazon has made it available for everyone. It was originally rolled out just for people using DSP, and then it was rolled out to people with an advertising console, but you had to request access to an instance. That was a little bit of a hurdle. Helium 10 helped people overcome a bit of that. Recently, it is now directly available within your advertising console. If anyone has watched Carrie and I's series that we rolled out, Outsourced to Optimized, this is actually a part of the series where we were able to log in and get her access so we could start utilizing it live as well. But for those who are unfamiliar, just to kick things off, if you go under Ad Console, Measurement and Reporting, and click on Amazon Marketing Cloud, you're going to inherently see this screen once you get logged in and ready to go. The reason I wanted to start with this is a lot of people aren't necessarily familiar with advertising console navigation, especially if you're using a tech or a software. This was really big that Amazon made it available for everyone because Amazon Marketing Cloud is great for sellers or brands of any size. On the smallest end, audiences allow you to get much more curated with your targeting. On the largest end, we're able to access things like Nielsen analytic insights and connect that to our advertising strategies. So if you're familiar with DSP, streaming TV, those are things that we can do. So AMC is truly valuable for every single seller. I can't think of any reason not to utilize it. So let's kind of kick things off here. When I'm talking about Amazon Marketing Cloud, there's two big things I like to think about. One, audiences. Two, analytics. What AMC really is just access to all of your shopper data. At the end of the day, that's really what it is. Amazon Marketing Cloud is a clean room which stores all of your data and insights, which means you can segment that data, splice and dice it in order to better target from an audience perspective. Or you can use it to uncover analytics. Things like if a customer clicked on my sponsored product ad and my sponsored brand ad, are they going to be more likely to buy my product? We're going to start with audiences first because in my opinion, that is the most actionable and you can access it directly with an advertising console right now once your AMC access is set up and ready to go. So why is this important in general? Everyone's probably used to keyword targeting, right? If you're in the chat, you do your keyword research, which means if someone types in dog food, for example, you're serving them with an ad. The problem is it's gotten a little bit competitive. Keywords and CPCs are a little bit more expensive than they used to be. The keyword dog food could probably be anywhere from $10 to $12 a click, right? And sometimes it's almost too broad, right? That's a little bit of the struggle that we're seeing when it comes to just keywords in general. Yeah. The problem is, as we know, Amazon advertising and keyword targeting is really real estate. you want to show up at the top of the page, it's location, location, location. You have to outbid everyone else that also wants to show up at the top of the page, correct? And if you don't bid, someone else will. So I think a lot of brands that I've been talking to have maybe started losing market share, or their sales have been decreasing because they haven't been increasing their bids to outpace the market. And that's a difficult spot for brands. That is where AMC Audiences has really came to play and has somewhat changed the game for us. Because now, instead of just targeting every single customer looking for dog food or toothpaste, we can overlay an audience element into that. So, not only do I want to target everyone searching for toothpaste, but I only want to bid high if I know that they've already bought my product before, or they've already added me to cart and didn't complete the purchase. Or I only want to bid high if I know they viewed my sponsor brand's video ad, but never completed their purchase. This is where Amazon Audiences is coming into play. So now we can keep our bids a little bit lower for our generic audience, but apply a bid boost for that audience that we know is more likely to convert. Now, again, why is it important to focus on our conversion rate? Let's say we're still targeting dog toy, and we're having to bid $5 to show up at the top of the page because we know the top of the page is where we get the most traffic, the most visibility. But when we target the overall term dog toy, a lot of people click, but maybe they don't buy. That means we have a lower conversion rate, right? But if we can hyper target that audience a little bit more, even if we get a little bit less clicks and we can increase our conversion rate, that's going to directly improve our ACoS. Here is a great example of what this looks like in theory. Definitely feel free to screenshot, take photos of this page so you can start understanding why increasing your conversion rate is so good for your ACoS or your ROAS. This is a great example. Let's say we're bidding $3 on the term dog toy. When we target our general audience of dog toy, if we have a 15% conversion rate, that means if 20 people click, 3 people will order. That's pretty expensive, right? We can't really afford that term. We're at 100% ACoS. Now, let's say we make our audience a little bit more aligned and not just target dog toy, but target people who are searching for dog toy and also have purchased a certain type of toy of ours in the past. If we can get our conversion rate up to 50%, not always realistic, but great for showing the context here, our ACoS is lowered to 30%. This is incredibly, incredibly important because a lot of people are in this position of you have to bid high in order to maximize traffic, clicks, and sales. But when you increase your bid, you can't afford the traffic. How do you balance that out? You figure out how to increase your conversion rate. So we either improve your offer, so more people complete a checkout when they view your page, or you get more aligned with the audience you're targeting, so they're inherently going to be more likely to convert. So where does AMC Audiences really come into play here? AMC Audiences are now pre-built into your advertising console. So if you go into Campaign Manager, you can either create a campaign or you can apply this to all of your historical campaigns. So once you open up a campaign, you're going to see that Amazon now has a section called Bid Adjustments. Historically, this used to be called Placements. Now it's called Bid Adjustments because it's no longer just top of search, rest of search, or product detail page. We have those placements still, but we also have B2B placements and audiences now. So when you go to audiences, you're going to see right now 3 pre-built audiences directly in your advertising console. You have an audience that is highly likely to purchase based on their recent shopping activity. Think about that. Amazon can say, hey, I only want to target people who have a higher likelihood of purchasing because I know they've been doing research in the category. I would be willing to bid more to target that audience because they're going to be more likely to convert. I could also do someone who's clicked or added my brand's product to cart. If they clicked but haven't purchased, or they added to cart but haven't purchased, that's an audience I want to continue to remarket, right? Similar to what you would do with Meta. That's incredibly valuable. Or you could do purchase to brand product. Let's say you sell supplements and you sold someone a protein and now you want to upsell them with a pre-workout. This is that type of opportunity. All 3 of these are built directly into your ad console. 0 lift, 0 work on your end. You just apply them similar to a placement modifier. I'm going to pause there. Any questions on that? Rick asked me in the chat, shouldn't you always look for a lower ACoS? The answer is not always yes. A lot of brands are really focused on improving their BSR, improving their placement on the page, and or selling more. In order to do that, sometimes you need to focus on higher visibility placements that you can't always afford. We have some brands that come to us and they just want to break even on their ads because they know the more orders they drive, the more sales that they drive, the higher likelihood their BSR is going to improve. And as their organic positioning increases on the page, their total sales are going to increase and they're not going to be as dependent on advertising to drive that volume. So, not always. I want to give a quick case study of a specific scenario where we actually applied this to one of our campaigns. Now, personally, we do like to segment our campaigns. I'll get into more details. But as you can see, we applied an audience modifier and it allowed us to increase our ROAS by almost double. So we were running at a, $1 ROAS. We were able to increase it to a 2.42 ROAS, all because our conversion rate was so much higher when we lowered our audience and made it more niche. This was fantastic for our overall performance. Now, here's a few things, as with the questions in the chat. We do not apply audiences to every campaign because right now, when you're targeting keywords, they're already really high intent and you have a large pool. If you apply an audience, that pool becomes so much smaller and you decrease your opportunity to drive additional sales. So we use the bid boost to adjust for profitability, and we balance that scale with our micro targeting. What we like to do is for our highest traffic placements, we'll run single keyword campaigns with a very specific audience. And then we'll continue to run all of our other campaigns with no AMC audience. So that way, from a budget perspective, once we max out our small audience pool of AMC audiences, our budget's just going to go ahead and continue to spend against our larger campaigns that don't have the AMC audience applied. We also don't like to overlap audiences, to Nicholas's point, because when you start overlapping your audience, you go from targeting thousands of people to maybe 10. And that's not going to be that valuable for you, right? You can sometimes increase your conversion rate a ton, but you're still going to need to balance that scalability aspect if you want to continue to drive long-term growth. So going back to the general concept here, when we're looking at dog food in general, you have to balance the fact that keyword targeting is already so high intent. If someone is searching for dog food, they want to buy dog food, right? When you apply your AMC audiences, you have to make sure you can still scale it out and have a large enough audience to target. I believe in the last webinar we did on this topic, the threshold was around 2,000. You need to have at least 2,000 people in an audience to actually be able to run an appropriate audience. So you can see here, if you make your pool of people too small, it's not going to run. That being said, if you log into Amazon Marketing Cloud, there's many more audiences that you can actually curate. It's a little bit more difficult to set up, but there is, I don't know the exact number, but it's pretty much unlimited if you know how to write SQL. If you can utilize SQL, you can come up with your own audiences directly within AMC and then apply them to both your PPC and DSP. If you don't know SQL, Amazon has a ton of IQLs directly within AMC that you can scroll through. We have a guide at the end of this presentation, which is going to allow you to basically have any opportunity to better target the customers you're looking for. Aaron asked, improved conversion equals improved organic rate. Is that still true when targeting AMC audiences? Absolutely true. The problem is, if you're only driving an additional 1 to 2 sales a month, that's not enough data or volume to really improve your organic rate, right? So even though your conversion rate's much higher, it's not a strong enough signal. That's why you have to balance the scalability aspect. You also have to consider that Amazon's moving away from our traditional keyword-based search results. It's becoming a lot more contextual and behavioral. So my search results in the future are going to look very different from your search results, right? It's going to be based on a lot of our historical actions as a consumer. So our BSR is probably going to start being quite a bit different in that regard as well. So that's why you really want to lean into this and figure out who that curated audience pool is so you can increase your conversion rate in that. So here's a quick screenshot of what it looks like. These are, again, not the templated audience directly in Ad Console. If you go in and want to create your own AMC audiences, we like to think of rules-based for precision, lookalike if you want to expand and create a larger audience. And then again, it all comes down to like what your objectives are. Are you wanting to drive awareness? Are you wanting to drive conversion rate? All of that's possible directly within AMC. If you want to use the pre-built audiences, then it's incredibly easy, right? I showed you a drop-down that has 3 options. Amazon's going to continue to add to those. If you want to curate your own audiences directly within AMC, like I just showed, you create the audience within the AMC console, and then you typically wait 2 to 3 days and you'll see it directly included in your drop-down. So these are 2 audiences our team curated. We have a higher price point product that's highly giftable. We wanted to look at cart abandoners and segment those by days. So one of the ones that we did was in the last 3 days, if they added a cart but did not purchase, we want to pay more to serve them an ad because they're back in the category. So when I said it's like really unlimited of what you can do with this, it truly is. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing. A lot of people are going to get overwhelmed and try to go too niche and not be able to scale. So that's really why we want to balance that scalability aspect, or else it's not very efficient operationally. Now, here's just a few things. Again, I'm not going to talk through every single one. Feel free to grab some screenshots. Here's the campaigns that we like to look at. Imagine someone engaged with your ads in the past, but did not purchase. Added cart, did not purchase. Maybe they viewed one campaign, but not the other. These are fun things we like to play around with. Deal seekers, fantastic during the holidays or during tentpole events. They frequently view our product detail page. These are all things that are really, really valuable to us. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention again is the path to purchase is not linear, which means a lot of people are caught up in this mindset that the moment someone clicks, they purchase our product. That's not really how it works. We've seen, really crazy results with people who viewed streaming TV campaign at home and then made search results on Amazon, or maybe they watched a UGC video on TikTok and then came to Amazon. Our goal, especially as the whole industry is shifting to this agentic model and leaning on like ChatGPT for discovery, is to connect with our customers before they're ready to purchase. This is a really big aspect of the things that we're leaning into. And this is where AMC can also come into play. And how do we figure out what that path to purchase is? What is driving a customer to our listing? And when they do land our listing, let's make sure that we can get them to convert. Now, the second thing we're going to dive into is analytics. This is the second half of AMC that's really, really powerful. If you're a smaller brand, I don't think that analytics are very actionable, if we're being completely honest, in that you can't necessarily look at the analytics and immediately change your campaign performance. What analytics really good for, especially for my agencies listening in, is justifying the work you're doing, or maybe explaining to your CEO why sponsor brands are so powerful. And as with our audiences conversation, analytics can be a black box. You can do hundreds of thousands of things. It's really dependent on the type of ideas you have and what insights you want to see. When you log into AMC, the first 3 analytics you're going to see is path to conversion, time to conversion, overlap by campaign groups. So these ones are pretty basic. How are people finding my listing? Is it through my TV ad? Is it through my sponsored display ad, my video ad, my sponsored products ad? The majority of people listening in are probably only running sponsored products. So yeah, you can see why this is too valuable. But time to conversion is a cool one. So we actually have this built into a lot of our insights as well that we like to share with clients. And what we can see is, how long does it take our customers to convert after they last saw our ad? Now, this isn't considering the first search, right? That can be different. But after they saw an ad, do they add to cart and check out immediately? Do they keep it in their cart for a few weeks? What does that look like? This is where you can find that data. Overlapping campaign groups. You can see how all of your campaigns are working together to maybe drive additional touch points. Or you can get really creative and run hundreds of different analytic reports as well. Here's just those examples that I was showing you we like to use when we're working with our team. Time to conversion is always a fun one for us. I thought this was a fun brand. 18% of our shoppers take 1 to 7 days to check out. It's a higher price point item, which kind of makes sense. 8% of those shoppers take 7 to 14 days. This is how we've influenced a lot of our remarketing strategy based on our time to conversion insights to make sure that we don't let someone add something to cart and then forget to purchase. We also like this slide directly below, which allows us to see overlaps. We can see that our purchase rate not exponentially, but our purchase rate increases quite a bit when we have different types of advertising being involved. If you're only running sponsored products, you're typically missing out on a decent amount of opportunity because sponsored brands and DSP will educate your customers, so they're going to be more likely to convert. Sponsored display or the remarketing audiences that we talked about are also going to influence more conversion. So this is some of the data we like to use to help curate that strategy on our end. But that being said, there's hundreds of other insights you can also pull from AMC. This is just the sponsored products analytics. There's quite a bit more, but these are the only ones I decided to showcase. You can, again, log into your ad console and see all of this on your own. It's pretty incredible. I mean, you can say, hey, if someone clicks on this ASIN, what other ASINs do they end up purchasing? You can start looking at new to brand insights. Amazon recently partnered with Nielsen to pull in 65,000 retail stores and hundreds of millions of households. So think about all of my brands that are in a Walmart store and a grocery store. You can now say, hey, when I run ads, what happens to that lift? And you can overlap your audiences as well. So things are getting really incredible in terms of our targeting capabilities within Amazon because of AMC. Now, again, at its simplest, this may not be as valuable for my lower spenders, but for our larger spenders, this stuff really matters. But you can also dive into, 50 different things in this regard. So feel free to pull those reports. Those will be really, really valuable for you. Is there a way to utilize AMC to track how many customers came from off Amazon efforts, such as advertising on other platforms like TikTok or Shopify? You could, but it's not going to be perfect. You can put pixels through DSP on, other sites. Your TikTok is probably not going to be as beneficial, but you can with Shopify, for example. So you could utilize, your Shopify customers, then also retarget them within search, within DSP, and things like that. Will AMC show size of targeted audience? It will, because as mentioned, if your audience is too small, it's not going to let you run. I'm trying to think, Angelo, on the TikTok shop side, there are things that you could do, but it's not going to be perfect.
Hey there, just helping you with questions here. Somebody else asked actually if you could show again how to create your new audience.
If you're coming up with your own audience, it's going to be similar to this. You're going to choose your advertiser. Again, rules-based for precision look like if you need a larger audience, kind of to Farron's point. And then you add the campaigns that you're wanting to analyze. If you don't select anything, I believe it auto adds all of your campaigns. And then once you select run, it'll take a few days, but it'll show up directly within your ad console, just like this, under the bid adjustment section.
Somebody else asked, what's the best way to target multiple audiences if you want to target highly likely to purchase as well as retarget clicked or added to cart?
I personally like breaking these up into different campaigns so I can kind of track separately how they perform. I believe if you wanted to do them together, you would really have to build out like a custom audience utilizing SQL for that end. Amazon may allow for some negations depending on what audiences you're utilizing to make sure you're overlapping or cleaning up that audience a little bit, but a lot of it's going to lean on you just being able to customize. This is one as well where I just posted about it potentially. A lot of our team, they've actually set the context well enough with AI that they're able to lean on our chat and say, hey, this is what I want to accomplish. How can you help me adjust the code in order to accomplish it? That's something a lot of people can lean on to, is just a really well-trained ChatGPT model. The biggest thing is I would say to people, this is the most beneficial, powerful update, in my opinion, to Amazon advertising. A lot of brands, though, are not going to roll it out in a way or be able to roll it out in a way that's operationally efficient for them. They're going to get overly excited at the ability to hyper segment their audiences, and they're going to curate it to niche. So, Nicholas, this is back to your point. If someone's searching your number one keyword, they're looking to purchase. If they went to Amazon and typed in dog food, they're looking to purchase. If you apply an audience to every single campaign, you're making your pool so small that you're more than likely just going to tank your sales. And that's the main issue that you're going to run into. And if you start decreasing your sales, especially if you look at your reports and see that the majority of your sales are driven from ads, over 50% of your sales are driven from ads, what's going to happen when you take your normal audience and decrease it and shrink it by 40%? Your advertising sales are going to decrease, which means your total sales are going to decrease. And that's really going to hurt your organic rank. You really want to apply this specifically in a segmented fashion so you don't decrease your overall sales. Instead, you just increase your conversion rate. If you see that the pool of audiences is still really large, you can continue to scale them out. But if you immediately start applying it to everything, you're going to be in a pretty tough position by decreasing your total sales by making your pool of customers too small.
When creating a new audience, what is the query editor? Can you explain this further?
Yes. So this is where the SQL knowledge comes into play. The query editor is when you can make those slight tweaks and adjustments to your query for anything customizable. So this is where I'd lean on to like ChatGPT and AI to really help you overcome that hurdle. It's for the custom audiences section, right? And that's going to be a little bit more difficult, I think, for people to overcome. In general, I like to lean on all of the pre-built audiences that Amazon's created because I don't have that background. I've never no-coded a website or anything. So that's something that you'll have to play around with. It'll give you the query that you can copy and paste and directly run the audience on.
Can you please describe real-life examples on how to use AMC and how it may help compared to a regular PPC report?
Yeah. Are you referring specifically to analytics or audiences? Real-life examples of audiences, I walk through this screenshot here of an example where we applied an audience to a very expensive campaign. You can see our CPCs with the audience was $10.54, but we were able to double our conversion rate, which was fantastic. That was really, really powerful for us. We went from a $1 ROAS to a $2.42 ROAS, a 7% conversion rate to a 13% conversion rate because we niched down our targeting. So from an audience perspective, that's going to be the most impactful for anything. On the analytics side, again, it's really going to lean into more so how much you're spending. There's hundreds of different reports that we pull. One of them, for example, is one of our brands partnered with a professional athlete and they started running TV campaigns. And what we were able to do with our PPC is say, hey, anytime someone viewed the TV campaign, I want to pay more for my PPC campaign. We were able to pull that. And then we pulled the analytics in as well to show that overlap and said, hey, when someone viewed both the TV campaign and clicked on our ad, their conversion rate was 2 to 3x higher. But it's unlimited. Like the ad type overlap and time to conversion are probably the most valuable for any size of seller. But pulling in that Nielsen, that retail store data, the video data, it's incredible.
This says, I run time to conversion and I see there are purchases and total brand purchases. If the brand purchase is highly relative, what do you learn from that? It's high relatively.
I would assume it'd be differences in price point in your products if I were to assume, because your brand purchases are pulling in all of your insights. But I don't know what you mean by high, because time to conversion is just breaking out the time frame. So what do you mean by high?
Okay. Angelo says, I imagine this can be utilized in a lot of ways, but do you have any advice on when to avoid it? Audience targeting and bid increase for now, at least.
This is a great question. I don't really see any reasons to avoid it, but I would say be cautious about how you apply it. This is similar to your replacement modifiers, where this has an opportunity to drastically mess up your bid management. If you have a campaign with 50 keywords and then you also apply an audience on top of that, you can adjust all of your bids drastically. So I just see a lot of people who are, let me apply this to every single thing. And then their ACOS and ROAS changes and they don't know why. I'm like, you applied a very aggressive bid boost to 700 keywords and you don't know what keywords are triggering it, because when you apply a bid boost, it's at the campaign level, not keyword level. So it's more so just being very careful about how you utilize it, since it is a bid increase and not a decrease.
All right. And then Farid asks, could we keep existing campaigns and set up new campaigns for audiences, or does targeting only work if there's existing data?
We actually like to keep our existing campaigns running and not mess with them too much unless we want to improve the conversion rate. Like if it's not running incredibly well and we see an opportunity to improve, I'll apply an audience. In general, we do like to set up new audiences because, again, If you are making 700 different changes in your account, not tracking those changes, you're not going to be able to correlate an action to an output, right? So we like to create these new campaigns so that way I can name them AMC, and I can go to my reporting and I can tell my, my brand, hey, for my AMC campaigns, our conversion rate is much higher and our sales are much higher. It allows me to control that reporting and figure out the scalability as well. Because at some point in time, if you keep fishing in a small pond, you're not going to have any more fish in that pond, right?
Yeah.
So that's why we got to continue maxing out, kind of growing in that regard.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to do it, to basically duplicate what you have and then set up audiences so that you don't tank your sales, like you were saying.
Yeah.
You're still experimenting with audiences. And so it's not really super risky.
And if you start running out of budget on your AMC campaigns, you can increase your budget and maybe lower your budget on your legacy campaigns. But I like making those baby step changes, unless like everything's on fire and you need to correct everything really quickly. But I like to do baby steps because this can really drastically affect performance.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like we came to the end of the questions. So thank you all for joining. Thanks again, Destaney, for your expertise and for helping always. And we'll see you all on the next webinar. Bye, everyone.
Amazing. Thank you.